Welcome into the Experience Comcast. I'm your host, Brigett, and today I'm joined by my friend Kately Serpa. So, welcome in, Katelyn.
Hello, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited that we got to do this. We've been talking about it for a little while now, so I'm glad to finally have you on. So, Katelyn is a certified holistic health coach and she is specializing in fitness. So, Katelyn, tell us a little bit more about yourself and just how you got into that area. How did that become a passion of yours and where you are at today?
I've been in the fitness realm for about 10 years now. So I actually got into it towards the end of high school when I just needed to make a shift for my life. Honestly, it kind of came out of relationship issues and just realizing I need to shift this energy onto myself. But I was in high school and had this like young mindset of I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew that I needed to change something. And so I dove into fitness, but the problem was the fitness industry is drenched with so much myths and kind of toxicity. Even though it claims to be healthy in a way, I had no clue. I mean, I was just Google searching. I didn't really know what I was doing. So it wasn't really until I got to college. I was planning on becoming a nurse originally, but I that's another story. I shifted gears and became a dietitian, and I started learning more about holistics. And it really wasn't until I started becoming a health coach and going to school for that I started to open my eyes to what I was doing in the fitness realm wasn't necessarily serving me. So I ended up getting diagnosed with PCOS, which polycystic ovarian syndrome. It affects your hormones. And I think part of leading up to that was my extreme fitness journey, with the way that I was dieting, with the way I was exercising, and not actually giving myself the nourishment that I really needed. I mean, I looked great. I had a six pack and everything, but inside was a totally different story. So that really is what brought me to wanting to help people now prevent from getting to that, or get out of that if that's where they're at. So especially women in particular, we're sensitive. We've got a lot of hormones that we're working with, and we can't just dive in full extreme to something that might not serve us. So yeah, that's a little background.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have a question real quick for any of our listeners who might not know really what holistic means. Because you and I are in that realm and we hear that all the time. And we know that is such an important aspect of health and looking at health in that perspective. So tell us maybe kind of a definition or kind of how you see that holistic side of health. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great point. So holistic, I mean, I always like to kind of think like whole as in wholesome, holistic, even though it's spelled differently. But it's taking on a more wholesome approach in the sense of looking at your whole entire lifestyle. Um, I also like to think of it as kind of healing from the inside out. So we're paying attention to what's going on internally too, and not just that exterior physique, not just losing weight or losing fat, which of course is important and does affect internally, but we're looking at our system as a whole. And we're considering our hormonal endocrine system, we're considering our nervous system, and these things are really important, and they tend to get dismissed when we're just focusing on the outside. Instead of looking at calories and macronutrients, yes, that's important, but also looking at what's the quality of what we're eating. Where are we getting our food from? And what is our food consuming? What food is
Yeah,
our food eating? That's like another.
absolutely.
So, I mean, that's just to brush the surface as far as like even fitness goes, but also in just the health realm in general. I mean, you can even look at it in a sense of rather than treating and just treating the symptoms, per
Mhm.
se. I mean, you can look at this in a sense of taking supplements. You could look at it in a sense of taking pharmaceuticals or medications, but instead looking at what's the root cause? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing in your lifestyle? What's causing you to continue being sick rather than just treating the symptoms? So, kind of like both perspectives, but trying to also bring that into fitness because I think that that's part of why people don't stick with it and have a hard time um, staying like true to it because it's more than that. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. Just it's such a broad picture of health. It really is what it is. It is looking at that whole picture. Sometimes we think of body, mind, spirit, so like emotions, physical body, relationships, all those things, but it goes even beyond that as to like you said, our food and where that comes from and just kind of how it we are all connected in some way from the ground up. So yeah, it really is looking at that perspective and I love that. So let me ask you, I know you see stress. You even mentioned it as part of your story of like when you felt like part of getting your PCOS and some of the things that you've dealt with, maybe, because of the fitness journey that you took, the way you went about it to begin with. So obviously, our fitness, the way we go about that, definitely affects us, especially as women, because hormones are, so much a part of our journey. And we really do need to take them into consideration when we're doing really everything. Um, and so, tell us a little bit more, maybe your journey or kind of how you see clients and that stress affecting them and dealing with fitness and how that comes to play.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, stress is like it's everything and it really does play a big role. I mean, everything from how it affects our performance with fitness to chronic disease. So, I see that come up. It's a really good question. Like, I think that when it comes to fitness, it's the stress is a big factor with kind of getting in the way of people's goals. So a lot
Mm.
of people come to me, they want to lose fat, they want to lose weight, and um, they might be doing all the things. They might be eating the right diet, they might be working out, but if they're not targeting their stress, then it's that your body can't let go of fat when it's in this fight or flight kind of position. So I think that that's like one of the biggest things that I see is um, kind of like having that conversation with clients like hey, we need to step back a little bit and look at bringing those stress levels down. I mean,
Mm.
even one of my clients, she's so young. I mean, fresh out of high school, I think early 20s, and she just had so much bottled up in her. You could tell. I mean, especially these girls that are going or girls, guys going through college, there's a lot of stress that they're going through.
Absolutely.
I think that like it's so important to learn at a young age how to manage that because as you get older, our it just becomes harder and harder to maintain that metabolism. I always recommend getting an early start, but managing that stress is going to be huge because again, as you get older, the fat's not gonna just drop off so easily, and that's when those stress hormones play a really big role. Cortisol causes the secretion of glucose, and when we've got too much glucose in our bloodstream or insulin, we're storing that as fat, and then our body, when it's in the survival mode, it's not going to work on burning fat. It wants to conserve it because it thinks that we're in harm. We need to conserve everything that we've got. So
Right.
not only just managing like mental stress, but there's also physical stress. So somebody who's like completely, they're going to the gym 6, 7 days a week and they're working out for an hour plus, and they're pushing it hard. And then on top of that, if they're consuming calories under their basal metabolic rate, which is the bare minimum of what our bodies need just to be able to survive day to day without doing
Yes.
anything. If they're, which most people, they don't even know. And if they're eating under that basal metabolic rate, then boom, you're instantly putting yourself into a stress state just
Right.
not eating enough. So
Yes.
that's that's huge right there. So we've got physical stressors, we've got emotional stressors, and then of course, chemical stressors tend to come in like the those myths and those things that are out there in the fitness industry on the market, like the product like pre-workouts and like a lot of chemicals and bad ingredients in the food that we're eating, the protein powders, this artificial sweeteners, the low fat, the low sugar, or no sugar. So yeah, I think that stress is like it plays a really big role from all different angles. I mean, the fitness,
Yes.
that's just the fitness industry right there too.
Right, that's only one area. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that chemical stressor is sometimes something we overlook, when we're talking about that because we don't really think of those foods, especially like protein powders and things like this that are we're told, "Hey, this is gonna help you, you know, be leaner or have more energy or whatever." And if we're not really looking at those ingredients and being careful, then we're actually contributing to that chemical stress load on our body. So yeah, definitely, definitely one there. But you're right; it's all the different angles coming together. So I kind of want to flip that on its head a little bit. Do you also see that exercising can sometimes cause stress on the body if it's not done right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of,
Absolutely.
like, I know the answer, but yeah. So
Yeah, like
tell
a
us a
catch
little bit about
22.
that because I feel like a lot of people, and especially, I don't know, maybe stereotyping women, maybe just because I am a girl, and so I get it. But sometimes I feel like we think, "Oh, I gotta push, I gotta push, I gotta push, and I gotta do," and all these things. And sometimes I feel like that contributes to the stress level on our body. So tell us what you're seeing in that realm.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to this for myself because I mean, I come from being like an exercise maniac. I got myself into it and then I actually had to work on getting myself out of it because I started learning more about how women's hormones work. And it is really, I see this impacted with women more than men. Um but especially I'd say the most important thing to consider is that week before you start your new cycle, so before menstruating. That is a time when we need progesterone, and progesterone is not going to rise if we have cortisol present. And most of us don't realize that cortisol is it there's so many things that can cause it. So going back to your point about exercise, if we are overdoing it, and I mean listen to your body, because I don't want you to feel like you're having to um do nothing right before,
Right.
like during that time. Sometimes we can exert it a little bit more than others, but it is really important to kind of gauge where you're at. Are you feeling better after your workout, or are you kind of just grinding through it and pushing through it and feeling exhausted? Like, I just
Mm.
hope that, like, for women, this gives them that grace and permission to slow down on days when they're like, I really don't want to go to the gym, and pay attention to where you're at that time of your cycle, because it when we push it too hard, when we push it and we are feeling like I don't this doesn't feel good for me. Yes, to some extent it takes time for exercise to actually start
Right,
feeling.
right.
So it's like a happy medium, but you'll start to get a feel for it. Um but when we push it too far, maybe too long, that that goes against the law of hormesis, and we are our body doesn't adapt to the stressor, and it's causing damage. It's causing damage to our DNA, it's causing damage to our hormones, and we're not serving ourselves. We're, if anything, that we go down that stress spiral and our body hold. it'll hold on to the fat. It comes back to that
Mm.
same concept. And so sometimes people are pushing so hard that we find in cases when women right before their cycle, for just an example, if they start prioritizing shifting away from like high intensity workouts to more of yoga and just walks or hikes, practicing more meditation, utilizing this as a time for practicing other things beyond workout, Pilates, even just some mild strength training. Um, some women have like major results. They start losing the fat, and it's hard because you have to get past that mental barrier of like you feel like you're not really pushing it, but you're actually giving your body permission to do what it needs to do. And it's doing a lot more internally that we don't even realize as it's
Yes.
preparing for that cycle.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that's so true. Um, I feel like when I was younger, I didn't really listen to my body unless it was like something major happening. Had no idea about all that. I do know as I got older, I realized kind of that same thing of like I have always been an athlete literally from the time I was 2, have been involved in some kind of sport. So it's just kind of in my nature and had gone through this season where I was running every day. It might have just been a jog or something, or at least 5 days a week. I'll say that I was taking a couple of days break, but had kind of hit this plateau where I wanted to lose a little bit, more of just kind of lean, get a little bit leaner, kind of felt stuck, had a lot of stress going on. It was a very stressful time in my life and just realized, okay, I need to step back, maybe change up some things and started doing a little bit of yoga and mixing that with some strength training instead. And it was amazing because nothing else changed. I was still super stressed, but that was exactly what my body needed. And I lost some weight. I got lean and it was like, huh, okay, maybe I should listen to my body. Right. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that and just kind of more in tune with my body and that cycle of there are weeks where I can really push it. And there are weeks when I can't as much, which is kind of hard when you're a spin instructor and you're kind of having to lead. But still, it kind of hit me as like, if I can't teach my, clients, my students, these ladies, because I'm not listening to my body, what am I really teaching them? So it kind of was even a mindset shift for me of like, I need to show them that there are days when you just can't go as much and you don't need to. You're right. There is that happy medium of when you're getting started because it's not always fun, right? But yeah, I feel like it's a definite needed journey. It's so important, but sometimes it's one that we don't, I guess for my sake, it came later in life and I would love to, help others find that earlier so that they can avoid some of the things that I went through maybe and that my body had to deal with, but just be healthier in general and just listening to your body in that sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's so important. And it's also like you can look on the plus side that it's kind of a beautiful thing that we have this opportunity to change things up throughout the whole month. So, like it gives us time to be able to try new things, try new exercises. And it's sort of like for somebody kind of who with an ADD brain like mine, it's nice to have some change up. So
Yeah,
that's just another factor is like I really enjoy being able to switch it up and go from like all out. When I have the energy, like I'm going to add in, things that like little stressors that my body can handle and feels good
right.
and I adapt. And then other times when it just feels so good to like lean into like more of a slow pace and you're still getting a workout like you're saying like
Absolutely.
I think that something like yoga does not get enough credit. And I will say, for years, I thought yoga was just a matter of stretching and you didn't get any exercise, but
Yep.
it's tough. I take some of my clients through it and they're like, I mean, hardly able to hold a warrior one pose and we're just stationary, but it's a lot of leg work. So
Yeah.
gotta give
Absolutely.
them credit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I was the same way. My first yoga class, I was probably in my 20s in high or in college, and like almost fell asleep at the end, was like, "What is this? It's not a workout at all." Like, it was not a good experience, and then later I was like, "Oh, there's so much more to it." Yeah,
Yes.
definitely does not get the credit sometimes that it's due for sure. Um, it kinda reminds me of, something in one of my, nutrition courses of just whenever you're talking about those stressors and hormesis, and it's like we come into exercise or whatever at this level, and that exercise is going to drop us as we're exerting that energy that stress is on us. But the point is, when we recover, we want to recover up here higher than where we started. And if we're not doing that, then the next time, we're starting lower and we're just going to go down. And that's not where we want to be. We want to continue to recover higher than where we started. I mean, that's the point. And it's, regardless of what the stressor is. And I think that's sometimes something we forget of, just that recovery period and that listening to our bodies, like we've been saying, of just, what are you feeling afterward? If you're not feeling, good afterward, then listen to that. That could be your body saying, "Hey, there's something else going on, and I might need to rest a little more right now. I might need a little more nourishment. Maybe it is where I am in my cycle. Maybe there's something else going on that I need to pay attention to." But those are such key indicators from our body, that we should really key into.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your analogy and just explanation of the hormesis. It's, the concept of hormesis is, it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah,
And it really is, it's game changing because it's not even just with fitness, right? It applies to
absolutely.
absolutely everything. Like I even tell people, the same thing with alcohol. Like you don't just, like if you have a glass of wine and it brings you to like maybe a little bit of a buzz, usually you're okay, your body adapts, you're doing okay, but you have a bit too many glasses and you're not feeling well after, right? So it's kind of like that same measure with the exercise of, if you're not feeling good afterwards, then you're not doing any good. You're dropping below that level. And
Yeah.
we want to be able to push it to where we're benefiting ourselves, and like not to make alcohol seem like something that we want to like push to, but just any stressors in life
Right.
is, our body will adapt if we don't do too much, and then we become stronger. um it's a very beautiful thing, but it's also that happy minimum. So even taking like new supplements or adding in anything new, I think it's always better to start off low and slow, like just
Yeah.
taking things nice and slow. You're better off doing that than going too hard and then having to back down. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. So that brings us to kind of another part of this, and that's one great tip right there of just starting slower at things. Already thinking of some mental pictures of that, of just how much better it is when we do start slow. What are some other tips that you can give people? Say they're wanting to exercise, they're wanting to add in some things, but maybe they're struggling, maybe they're stressed, or maybe they find out when they do exercise, it's not working. So, kind of tell us, like, if you have a client coming in and you're seeing all these things go on, what are some of those tips that you give them, and to help them out?
Yeah, I think that, beyond low and slow, simple is always better.
Mm.
It's so much easier to stay consistent if you can just simplify things. So, usually, what I like to start clients off with is the 4 by 4 by 4 rule. And that's basically exercising 4 days a week. So, it keeps you consistent. You're coming in majority of the week. And then choosing just 4 exercises. So, kind of a little more simple on the brain, just 4 exercises. And then within each exercise, you're doing 4 sets of each. And it just kind of makes it so you're not thinking of a whole entire workout plan. So, if you're thinking um, legs, for example, boom, that could be leg extensions, hamstring curls, leg press, and then you could do some calf raises or squats or whatever you're feeling comfortable with. But it helps simplify it down a little bit. So then you can have that game plan coming in and you feel good about it. You're not spending too much time there. You're kind of starting off slow. And then from there, you can advance. If you're like, I think I want to add in one more exercise. I think I want to show up one more day. Um, but it's a great starting place. And it's easier on the mind because it's just one number that you have to think of. So there's that. And then I like to start people off with exercise in the beginning just to get that flow going. And then we can start talking about nutrition and diet. Unless somebody is like already like super gung ho and maybe type A and they're like, I want everything now, then sure. But really, I think that again, simplifying, start like get yourself going for a couple weeks and then start adding in some nutrition and start like sharpening your brain around that. Because I think that sometimes when people try to jump in and tackle it all at once, it's a little bit of a lifestyle shock. And then as you kind of continue on, you can start looking at quality. But I will say, like, from a nutrition standpoint as well, don't get caught up in the calories. I think that intuitive eating, it's also another way to kind of simplify things a little bit more and to listen, to what your body actually needs and not focus so much on what the numbers are.
Yes.
Um like ways that you could approach that is just, for one, increase your protein. Most people are not eating enough protein. That is
Yes.
like off the bat, the first thing that you can start doing. And if there's anything to remove, I would say processed grains. Just going back to nature, like simplify it as much as you can. What can you picture if you had a farm growing in your backyard? I
Mhm.
mean, how many fields of oats would it take to make a bowl of oatmeal? How long would that
Right.
actually take, right?
Right.
I mean, it could be done, but it just sort of puts it in perspective, like something like think seasonal, think as close to nature as possible, and that's gonna give you those results that you're looking for. And it's also going to be less stressful on the body. I mean, it's that nourishment is huge. So, um, yeah. And then I guess lastly, not to make things too complicated, but I'd say to make sure you're nourishing. So if you're going to start exercise, it's really important that you consider bumping everything up with your food. Like,
Yeah.
at least, like, before, you don't have to worry too much about the diet, but just start increasing what you're eating.
Yeah.
Start cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a simple thing. And that's really what it does. It comes back to a lot of just being, we don't have to make it complicated. It can be pretty simple. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it should be simple of just keeping the exercises simple. You don't have to start out with anything crazy, just simple. And then food, keeping that simple, just back to the basics, and then, yeah, you're right. So many people, especially if they're trying to lose weight, they've cut and cut and cut and they're not eating enough. So if you are going to be, doing more exercise, then yeah, making sure that you are nourishing your body for sure. Great tips. I love those. Those are awesome, Katelyn. Well, thank you for joining us here today. It was so good to have you on. Definitely would love to have you back and we'll dive more into some of these things and get some more tips from you. But until then, tell us, where can people find you if they are looking for some more, tips on fitness, nutrition? Where can they find you?
Yeah. Again, I appreciate being here. I love talking about this stuff. I geek out over it. Um, so I do have an Instagram page, but I also have a YouTube. So that's a
Okay.
little bit more in-depth content. So my Instagram is fit little Kate. I'm only 5 foot, so that's hence the little.
Awesome.
And then on YouTube, I'm Rejuvenate with Kate, so that's kind of more of my company name. Um, and then I do like for those who are just getting started, or they don't want to dive fully into coaching. So I am a health coach, and I also work with people with fitness, just catering towards their goals. But I do have monthly classes. So it's literally just 1 hour a month. And I just teach on a new topic and I try to bring forward new information, stuff that I've been researching, but also just debunking myths because there's so many topics out there that need to kind of get cleared up as far as, you know, coming back to the basics. Let's
Yep.
simplify things because when we look on Google, you're probably going to find 10 different directions of
Yeah.
answers.
Don't go to Google. Yeah.
I'm here to
Absolutely.
simplify, question and answer. But yeah, I'm doing that today actually. So after this call, I'm gonna be hopping on and doing that. And I just love it. We have fun together.
Awesome. Now, is that online? Is that something local that you do? Or is it
It's all online. So you can
okay?
join over Zoom, you can join from anywhere. I should have the link for it. It's called Organic Solutions
Okay.
Monthly Insider, and that's on my you should be able to find it on my Instagram page under the link tree.
Well, awesome. Well, again, Katelyn, it was so good to have you here. Great information, great tips. And I look forward to hopefully having you back again one day. And as always, thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Thanks for joining us for the Experience Calmcast today. Please leave a written review. It helps us reach more people and allows us to provide the free support you need and want. For more on experiencing a calm body, mind, and spirit, go to www.experiencecalmcoaching.com, where you will find any links and resources that we talked about today. And you can schedule a free consult for direct access to me and learn how coaching could support you.